They were cleaner than four-strokes, quieter than you'd expect, and they promised something no one else dared to offer: no maintenance for 3 entire boat-fueled years. Sounds like a dream engine, right? But here's the twist. The very tech that made Evinrude a hero to some may have also helped kill the brand for good. By the end of this video, you will find out why these engines divide boaters so fiercely, and why they are still on the water today, despite the company behind them shutting down overnight. Let's uncover the shocking truth behind Evinrude's E-TEC engines. To understand E-TEC, we need to rewind to the mid-90s, back when Evinrude was already losing ground to Yamaha and Mercury. Their two-strokes were dated, their emissions were high, and regulations were tightening fast. So in 1996, they placed a bold bet on a revolutionary new fuel system: FICHT direct injection. On paper, FICHT was genius. It promised all the raw power and lightness of a traditional two-stroke, but with emissions clean enough to satisfy even California's toughest laws. This was the future: faster, lighter, cleaner. But in the real world, FICHT was a disaster. The engines ran hot, pistons melted, oil systems failed, some engines outright detonated. Warranty claims poured in, class action lawsuits followed, and by the year 2000, Outboard Marine Corporation, Evinrude's parent company, collapsed under the weight of it all. That could have been the end of Evinrude, but it wasn't. Enter Bombardier Recreational Products, BRP, the same company behind Sea-Doo and Ski-Doo. They saw opportunity in the wreckage. They bought the brand, overhauled the flawed FICHT system, and in 2003 gave the world a new promise: Evinrude E-TEC. This wasn't a patch job, it was a total redesign. E-TEC started faster, ran quieter, and emitted up to 75 less pollution than the old carbureted models. It was self-winterizing, oil-smart, and most famously, required no dealer maintenance for 3 years or 300 hours. No oil changes, no tune-ups, just turn the key and go. It didn't just meet environmental standards, it beat most four-strokes. BRP proudly declared it the two-stroke that beats the four-stroke, and for a time it actually did. Boaters noticed, reviewers took note, even regulators gave it awards. It looked like Evinrude had cracked the code, bringing old-school two-stroke muscle into the 21st century without sacrificing a thing. And they didn't just stop at one engine. What followed was an entire generation of E-TEC motors, each one tailored for a different kind of boater, and each one promising to change the game in its own way. Now, before we dive into the full E-TEC lineup, drop a comment if you've ever owned one, or thought about it. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into iconic boating tech, because next, we're breaking down how Evinrude built a lineup to reclaim the water. By 2004, E-TEC wasn't just a comeback story, it was winning awards and rewriting expectations. In 2005, it grabbed the EPA's Clean Air Excellence Award, stunning the four-stroke crowd, and by 2007, it was showing up everywhere, from casual fishing boats to high-speed police interceptors. Evinrude didn't waste any time expanding the E-TEC lineup. They rolled out 40 to 60 horsepower models for pontoons and easygoing family cruisers. Then came the 90 to 130 horsepower range, perfect for all-purpose hulls, from fishing rigs to light-duty workboats. For the speed lovers, they released high-output versions, 150 to 250 horsepower, built specifically for bass boats and performance junkies. But the real showstopper arrived in 2014, the E-TEC G2 series. Ranging from 150 to 300 horsepower, these engines were bold, aggressive, and packed with cutting-edge tech. They weren't just motors, they were statement pieces. The G2s looked like they came from a sci-fi movie. Bold lines, customizable panels, hidden rigging. Every feature, from 360-degree steering to iSteer and iTrim, was designed to feel premium, seamless, and entirely digital. Gone were the bulky cables and clunky hardware. G2 was engineered to look as clean as it ran. It wasn't just the design, it was the promise. More torque, better fuel efficiency, zero maintenance for 3 years, and no oil changes, ever. For performance junkies, this was revolutionary. For weekend warriors, it was peace of mind. Even lifelong four-stroke fans started turning their heads. But behind the sales brochures and dealer demos, some cracks began to show, and not just mechanical ones. Because as the E-TEC family grew, so did the divide in the boating community. Some boaters praised them like they were gospel. Others said owning one was like rolling dice on the water. Here's where things get complicated. For every boater who swore by E-TEC's reliability, there was another who swore at it. Let's start with the good. The positives of E-TEC were hard to ignore. You had best-in-class fuel economy for its time, lower emissions than most four-strokes, way ahead of the curve, blistering whole-shot performance, especially in the HO models, and thanks to their lightweight design, these engines were perfect for bass boats, flats boats, and smaller hulls that needed speed without adding bulk. And then there was the self-winterizing feature. Press one button and the engine prepped itself for the off-season. No wrenches, no appointments, just done. But flip the coin and the negatives hit hard. Parts weren't just pricey, they were premium priced. And if something went wrong, diagnostics required dealer-only software. You couldn't just plug in a code reader and get answers. Early models had issues with coils and injectors, and even some of the later ones weren't immune to sensor faults. But the biggest problem? Dealer support. It was wildly inconsistent. Some shops were trained, stocked, and proactive. Others didn't even want to touch them. The result? 2 owners could have the exact same engine and totally different experiences. One guy ran his E-TEC flawlessly for a decade. Another watched his engine seize at just 300 hours, thanks to a failed oil pump and a mystery warning light that never went away. You'll hear it at every Johnson or Evinrude meet. Best engine I ever owned, or maybe biggest mistake I ever made. So why the divide? Simple. E-TEC was a high-tech engine in a very low-tech world. If you had a great dealer and kept up with software updates, you were golden. But if your shop didn't know what they were doing, well, let's just say that check engine light felt more like a countdown clock. And this tension, it didn't just divide owners, it may have helped take down Evinrude itself. Here's the twist no one saw coming. While E-TEC was a technical marvel, it may have also been the very thing that sank Evinrude. Why? Because BRP went all in on two-stroke direct injection, at the exact moment the rest of the industry was sprinting towards four-strokes. Yamaha, Mercury, Honda, every big name pushed four-strokes as the cleaner, quieter, simpler answer. Governments loved the lower noise, marinas loved the easy servicing, consumers loved the green label. Perception was everything, and perception said, 4 strokes equals future. Evinrude pushed back. Our E-TEC is cleaner, they argued. Technically, they were right, but they were swimming against the tide, and then they doubled down. When BRP launched the G2 series, the engines weren't just powerful, they were complex. I-steer, I-trim, I-control, features that required brand new software, new tools, and fresh dealer training. Shops had to reinvest thousands just to keep up, and many simply shrugged and stuck with the brands they already knew. Worse, BRP refused to hedge its bets. No jet ski engines, no stern drives, no hybrid 4-stroke lineup, just E-TEC all the way. Then came 2020. COVID crushed supply chains, component shortages hit hard, boat demand spiked, but the pipelines that fed Evinrude ran dry. Meanwhile, 4-stroke builders were flexible. They had more suppliers, more product lines, and far bigger dealer networks. On May 27, 2020, BRP dropped the bomb. Evinrude outboard production was done, effective immediately. No phase-out, no last call. One press release, and more than a century of innovation was over. Dealers were blindsided, sitting on parts and promotional material now worthless overnight. Owners were furious, engines only a year old suddenly belonged to an orphaned brand. The legacy of Ola Evinrude, the man who invented the commercial outboard in 1909, vanished with one corporate decision. Innovation had turned into isolation. E-TEC's bleeding-edge tech, once its superpower, became its Achilles heel when the world changed. But even after the factory doors shut and the final press release dropped, E-TEC engines didn't just disappear. They're still out there, on lakes, rivers, and oceans, working hard or breaking down, depending on who you ask. So the question now isn't just what happened to Evinrude, it's what happened to the engines they left behind. And if you've seen an E-TEC in action lately, or still run one yourself, drop a comment below. We want to hear your real-world stories. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button for more behind-the-scenes looks at the machines that changed marine history. When BRP shut down Evinrude in 2020, they promised ongoing support through certified dealers, parts, service, warranties. They said nothing would be abandoned, but the market reacted fast. With no new production, E-TEC resale values dipped sharply. For a while you could find powerful engines at serious discounts, but then something surprising happened. The market stabilized, because despite everything, used E-TECs kept working. Today, these engines are still everywhere. The 90 to 130 horsepower range is especially popular with anglers, thanks to its balance of power, weight, and fuel economy. Older 200s, some of the early high-output workhorses still show up in offshore and tournament circuits. And the G2 250s and 300s, you'll spot them on high-performance hulls and bass boats that need that instant low-end torque. The engines themselves, when properly maintained, can last a long time. Many owners report 1,000 hours plus without major failures. Coils, sensors, injectors, they wear out, sure, but the core blocks and internals are solid, built to run and run hard. But there's a catch. It's not the hardware, it's the software. E-TEC diagnostics rely on BRP's proprietary CDI software, a dealer-level tool that's expensive, restricted, and not widely available. There are no open-source scan tools, no universal code readers, so when your engine throws a fault, you can't fix it with a laptop in your garage. You need a BRP-trained tech, and those are getting harder to find. Even worse, parts for certain G2 models are already starting to dry up. Some owners are resorting to buying used parts off eBay or stocking up on spares just in case. So are E-TECs still worth it? If you've got a good mechanic, access to service tools, and the patience to learn the quirks, absolutely. You'll get a powerful, clean-running, no oil change outboard that still outperforms many newer engines. But if your nearest dealer is gone and your G2 flashes an error code on a Friday night before a fishing trip, you could be in for a very long weekend. E-TEC is now a high-risk, high-reward legacy engine, still respected, still running, but more complicated than ever. And that brings us to the big question. Was it all worth it, or was Evinrude always chasing something they could never quite catch? So here's the million-dollar question, the one boaters, mechanics, and former dealers still ask to this day. Was it all worth it? Did Evinrude make the right call pushing forward with E-TEC even when the rest of the industry turned away? From an innovation standpoint, absolutely. E-TEC was groundbreaking. It took the raw power of a two-stroke, combined it with ultra-low emissions, and wrapped it in a smart, self-maintaining package. No oil changes, no tune-ups, no carb cleanings. For 3 whole years, most owners could just turn the key and go. That alone was unheard of. It proved that you could still extract brilliance from two-stroke technology in a world dominated by 4 strokes. It proved that direct injection could be clean, responsive, and shockingly efficient. And maybe, for the first time in outboard history, it gave boaters the chance to match their engine to their boat's color scheme. But innovation doesn't always win. From a business perspective, the writing had been on the wall for years. Boaters wanted plug-and-play reliability, Mariners wanted engines that didn't require specialist tools and proprietary software. Governments, especially in the US and Europe, wanted simplified emissions compliance. And the dealers, they wanted easier training, more models to sell, and fewer complaints to manage. The RP's decision to go all in on E-TEC without offering a four-stroke line or diversifying their marine portfolio ultimately isolated them, and when the pandemic exposed supply chain vulnerabilities, that house of cards collapsed fast. So now, E-TEC stands as both a cult icon and a cautionary tale, a marvel of marine engineering, a victim of market momentum. And yet, here's the twist. If you can find one that's been properly cared for, has full service records, and comes from a knowledgeable seller or trusted dealer, you could be getting one of the best pound-for-pound outboards ever built. Torque, throttle response, emissions, fuel economy, it still holds up, and in some cases it still outperforms newer engines that cost twice as much. Just know what you're getting into, because E-TEC is no longer the mainstream choice. It's the smart gamble, the niche tool, the engine for those who know exactly what they want, and exactly what it might take to keep it running. So now you know the truth. Evinrude didn't fail because they were behind. They failed because they were too far ahead. Too complex, too misunderstood, too reliant on a tech base that wasn't ready to shift with them. E-TEC engines still roar across lakes and bays around the world. They're fast, they're clean, and when they work, they really work. But behind that badge is a legacy of risk, reward, and relentless innovation, one that both lifted Evinrude to new heights and helped seal its fate. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into boat engines, brand rivalries, and the stories behind the hull. And in the comments, tell us, would you buy an E-TEC today, or are you sticking with four-stroke reliability?